Donald Trump is moving the troops to the nation's capital, okay? That's where we're starting off today. That is where we are starting our journey on this wonderful morning. The Trump regime, I repeat, is moving its military to the nation's capital. This is quite literally what happens in historic fascist movements. This is how it goes. Okay, this is how it starts. This is how it goes. We're doing it. And it's not even like, it's not on some like 2016 Trump shit. This is just straightforward. This is a straightforward attempt to at least have like some semblance of control when full tilt fascism comes our way. And it's already at our doorstep. And of course, the hilarious side of this otherwise like somewhat scary story is that the inflection point for this military takeover of law enforcement duties in the nation's capital is that a dude by the name of Big Balls got his ass beat by a 15-year-old teenage girl and a 15-year-old teenage boy. That is the reason why we are now having a fascist military takeover of the nation's capital. What are we doing? I'm losing my mind.
The nation's capital put on notice, awaiting the arrival of hundreds of National Guard troops as the president places Washington, D.C. under federal control.
This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back.
President Trump declaring a public safety emergency in D.C., placing attorney.
Yeah, Big Balls is the Franz Ferdinand, you know? That's what we're doing. That's like we don't even have like a real fake crystal knock inflection point. Like
Attorney General Pam Bondi in charge of the D.C. Metropolitan Police and activating some 800 National Guard troops, the first time the National Guard has been deployed to D.C. since after the 2021 attack on the Capitol. Overnight, the Secretary of Defense saying they'll be ready to act.
They're going to be proactive. If you take an action or a shot at them, there will be a consequence. We're not going to have National Guards sitting there like this, seeing a crime committed and not do something about it.
The Guard is being deployed to assist with law enforcement activities. Guardsmen always have weapons available, according to a U.S. official, but whether they will be armed for these duties is up to their commander. The president is painting an apocalyptic picture of the nation's capital, adamant crime is spiraling out of control. But the official figures show crime in the capital is actually in decline. Violent crime recently hitting a 30-year low, down 26% since last year. Burglary down 19%. Murder down 12%.
When we think of emergencies, it usually involves surges in crime.
Mayor Muriel Bowser acknowledges there's little she can do. D.C. is not a state, and the president has the authority to take over the city's police department.
And while this action today is unsettling and unprecedented, I can't say that given some of the rhetoric of the past, that we're totally surprised.
Trump, eager to show he's tough on crime, has shown a willingness to use military force in major cities. Earlier this summer, sending 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marines to quell immigration protests in Los Angeles. Now he's warning other cities, saying if this model works in Washington, he may use it to fight crime in places like Chicago, Baltimore, and Oakland, all notably Democratic-led cities.
We're not going to lose our cities over this, and this will go further.
Guard troops, we're told, will be in position in the coming week. Now, it's not clear how long they will stay on the streets of D.C., but the president has said he's willing to go even further and bring in additional military forces if needed. Michael.
Yeah, that would have helped on January 6th, Mary. And, you know, another headline this morning, the president naming a new top official in charge of the jobs report after he fired the last one.
Yeah, the president announcing a new commissioner for the Bureau of Labor Statistics, E.J. Antony of the Conservative Heritage Foundation. He has criticized the Bureau in the past and questioned its data. He also contributed to the Conservative Project.
I mean, massaging the numbers, deploying troops to the fucking nation's capital, black bagging people from the streets. And then when there's any sort of inevitable resistance against that sort of thing, utilizing the military to violently squash attempts to stop that sort of thing from happening. It's here. We have concentration camps. We have concentration camps. We have concentration camps in this country currently. Okay. is here. Is here. This is like, I think this is exactly how this kind of shit happens. Like historically, this is how it has happened. I don't know what more you need to see to arrive at this conclusion. It's just like, what do you want him to do? Run around saying he's a Nazi? Is that what you want to do? Is that what you need to hear from him? I mean, he's got people in his cabinet that have Sig Heiled. You got Elon Musk Sig Heiling at the inauguration. You even got that. Mainstream media reporting. This coverage is so weak. Brother, close your eyes and imagine Joe Biden doing that in a red state. Okay? Just do it. And there was good reason for him to do so when Greg Abbott was actively ruining the executive authority over immigration, actively defying the interests of the federal government. He could have done that. Imagine a military takeover of Texas. How would you react? They would have flipped out. I'm just like, this is not weak coverage. I don't know what you're talking about. Unless you're saying the media is not being aggressive enough in their commentary. Maybe that's what you're saying, and I didn't understand it. Like, I have detailed exactly how this is going to happen, and it's going along in the exact ways that I said it was going to happen.
2025 blueprint. Now, this comes after the president fired.
Oh, you're saying the media is weak on calling this out. Even my hog parents are increasingly saying they just can't watch the news. They don't watch because they know they're complicit, but they have stopped denying this isn't happening. Yeah, this is exactly the kind of like aesthetic stuff that Americans, regardless of what their political background is not in favor of either. I think a lot of this stuff is being, I think a lot of this stuff that's doing, what? You're giving 2019 voice today? Maybe. I think a lot of what's going on is happening specifically for like extremely online aspects of the movement. Like this shit is not something that like average Republicans, if they pay attention to it, this is not the type of shit that average Republicans would be on board with, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see like regular ass Republicans, like lifelong Republicans turning around and just being like, oh my God, this is great. I love sending the police. Like fascism theater is not something that everyday Americans will be on board with. It's kind of like when I got detained, there were people, immediate family members that had been to January 6th, like that had gone to the Capitol on January 6th, like massive Trump supporters. Okay, I know people who are not my family members, but like friends of mine and their immediate family members. When they heard about that, they were pissed off that the government was literally detaining people because they pegged them as political dissidents. Like that's the type of shit. I feel like that is the type of shit that pisses off even Republicans in general. You know, Big Balls got beat up by a 15-year-old in D.C. and Trump sends the National Guard. 15-year-olds get murdered in schools across the country and Trump sends thoughts and prayers. Yeah. There's a bunch of interesting stuff, but it's framed as law and order, so Republicans do kind of like it. Also, there's a lot of black people in D.C. No, for sure. This is for that reason. He's doing it for that reason because D.C. is a black city, okay? That is the main reason. This is a way to stop. This is a way to just basically signal in the same way that like when you do ICE raids in like Los Angeles and you rip apart families, like you're saying to your base, to the most racist elements in your base, like, I'm doing this for you. I got you. No more Mexicans. Like, I hear you, right? This is the same version of that, but just for black people. Ironically enough, it's also for the same base because those guys want brown people and black people to get the fuck out of the country, right? Or to be violently suppressed. So you're designing this like incredibly violent, ridiculous, this incredibly violent, ridiculous enforcement mechanism specifically to soothe the interests of some of the most reactionary elements within your base. I don't think you can keep pushing like this without significant response. I think this creates a lot of animosity. The problem, of course, is that you don't have a well-organized opposition party against this kind of thing that's like actively egging on the population to respond, to actually throw a fit, to up. You don't have that anymore within the Democratic Party. They're gone. And you kind of need that. This is not me shepherding people into the Democratic Party. This is just me saying that, like, you do need that because you need your parents and your grandparents to also be on the streets. There's no other way to stop this. And if your parents and your grandparents are going to get on the streets, the media has to cover it. The media has to cover the anger and the resentment that people feel. Okay? And in order for the media to cover it, you need the opposition party to actually go out on television with regular frequency and constantly give quotes and constantly say, this is fucked up. This is pissing us off. This is not what we are. This is not what America is supposed to be about. What the hell is going on? We need to go out and protest.
The previous commissioner claiming without evidence that last month's poor job.
Or people don't do crime? What do you mean? What? People don't do crime? Dog, crime is a constant, okay? When you live in an environment where there's poverty and wealth, crime is always going to exist. But what you're supposed to look at is if crime is out of control. Trump claims crime is out of control. DC numbers show the exact opposite. It is at a 30-year low at this point in DC, which means that for all its faults and failures, what they have done so far has been kind of working. This doesn't mean that there isn't crime that's still taking place. Crime is still happening, of course. Crime happens all around. It's a matter of whether you tune into it or not. And unfortunately, despite the fact that red states have higher homicide rates and higher rates of gun violence than blue states do, we all seem to think that blue states, where there's a lot of black people, are the only places where crime is manifesting. I wonder why. If I were to ask anyone, if I were to ask an average person on the streets, who has a higher violent crime rate? Which state has a higher violent crime rate? New York or South Carolina? They would say New York, but it's actually South Carolina because it's directly a consequence of poverty. It's directly a consequence of people's material conditions. Military will only target criminals? Yeah, no, totally. Just like they always do. Brother, the military has no training for law enforcement purposes, okay? You have the military police, but even then, they don't do necessarily a good job. Cops don't even do a good job with this shit, especially in America. The military is even worse than that. The military has one purpose. It's to kill, okay? That is what the job of the military is. They kill people, okay? That's what they do. They kill people. They get sent somewhere and they shoot. They use lethal weapons and they shoot. They don't do crowd control. They don't do any of that shit. They are there to kill. This is precisely the reason why there are laws in the books against this very same thing that's happening currently, okay? Now, D.C., of course, is unique because it's not a fully fleshed out state. It's a District of Columbia. So obviously, for that reason, you can federalize. You can basically do a forcible takeover of the policing in D.C. That's probably why this is the entry point for Donald Trump to test this process out. There's also, after the 48-hour takeover, you have to justify, like in the first 30 days, exactly why you need to control or federalize the policing in D.C. And then after the 30 days are over, you have to go back to Congress and get congressional approval to continue extending the military occupation of the nation's capital. Now, there are also rules against this sort of thing, specifically designed so that, you don't have some random psychopathic fascist leader decide single-handedly that he's just going to use the military as a mechanism of law enforcement on domestic soil. Like that's the whole point of this is that you're not supposed to do this.
Bob's report was manipulated to make him look bad. Michael.
Well, numbers don't lie, Mary. That's what they say.
Yeah, crime is always relative. Is crime bad? Yeah. Is it particularly bad more than usual? No. Has it ever been better than it is now? Also no. Crime rates in the U.S. fell off a cliff in the 90s and never went back. But people still have an understanding of crime based on memories of the 1970s, especially among those who are the children of white flight. There's also a different assessment of crime. What we actually perceive as crime is entirely different than what is actually crime, okay? We perceive homeless people, which is the most visible aspect of poverty, as crime. We see Target locking up, deodorant as a visible aspect of crime. Many of the things that we see as crime that we actually experience as like crime rates getting out of control are simply aspects of poverty, Okay? We associate visible aspects of poverty with crime. This doesn't mean that like there aren't criminals amongst the homeless population. Of course there are. But you don't make that assessment. You just see a homeless person and go, oh, ew, dirty, gross, crime. That's a criminal. He's going to come and yell at me. He's going to throw his poop at me. That's your immediate assessment when you see that. And then you walk around all day with that in the back of your head. You get in you get in a subway car and you see a homeless person, and in the subway car you go, crime is out of control in the subways. Okay? Like that person might not be bothering anybody. Or even he might be loud and abrasive and experiencing a mental health episode, right? But even then, like our assessment of what is a crime, what is contributing to the crime rate, is entirely out of whack. And the example I can give you is like if it wasn't a homeless person that was experiencing a mental health episode, but instead like I don't know, a regular 9-to-5er in a suit, you would treat that situation differently than you do with a homeless person. Okay, that's it. And you wouldn't immediately assume that this is like a criminal doing crimes. That's just kind of how it works. It is what it is. And for the record, this doesn't mean that it's good that there are homeless people experiencing mental health episodes in broad daylight that are subject to the elements with regular frequency. I'm not saying that at all. They need homes, okay? No one should be homeless. It's ridiculous that we are in the wealthiest nation on the planet and 600,000 people are going to be sleeping outdoors tonight. Okay? That's crazy. That's insane. That's insane. That is unacceptable. And that is a policy failure. But the solution to that isn't to like, I don't know, sick the military on these guys and kill them. Half of the guys are veterans themselves, ironically enough. Okay? Not half, but a big chunk of them are veterans themselves. The solution to that is to tackle poverty, because people don't become homeless because of crime. People become homeless because of poverty, because they get priced out of the housing market. But of course, no one wants to solve that. No one wants to actually fix the problem. They just want to use the problem so they can do more fascism, so they can implement more mechanisms of violent control. And that's where we're at now. And there are still people that look at the system and go, nah, you don't understand. There's so much crime happening in D.C. and now the military is going to go in and kill everyone that annoys me. Okay, great.
All right, thank you.
President Trump announcing he is taking control of Washington, D.C. and the police and deploying the National Guard.
I saw this piece earlier. It's very interesting. They're going to say a couple things here that trigger me to no end, but unfortunately, that's the name of the game now. You're going to hear the Fox News host say, who cares about statistics? What actually matters is anecdotes. Okay? Get ready, because obviously the data doesn't correspond to the narrative that these guys are cultivating. So either you have two options there. Either you tackle the data, you directly fight back and you say the data is wrong for this reason or that reason, or you just completely drop that and go, crime is up because I feel like crime is up. Okay? It's my personal feeling. It's my personal feeling that matters more. Trust me on this. Trust me on this. My feeling is that crime is up. I see black people all over the place. I see homeless people all over the place. And that scares me. And for that reason, I think we need the military. We need the military to occupy the nation's capital.
In an unprecedented crackdown on crime in our nation's capital.
Mark Meredith joins us now from Washington with the latest. Hey, Mark.
Ainsley, Brian, and Lawrence, good morning, friends. Once again, traditionally getting tough on crime is not controversial, but the White House is facing opposition from D.C. leaders after it vowed to help clean up D.C. streets. We got the idea of what the president's unveiling here. He's dispatching 800 National Guard troops, taking control of D.C.'s police department, and offering more federal resources to help the district get crime under control.
This issue directly impacts the functioning of the federal government and is a threat to America, really. It's a threat to our country. We have other cities also that are bad.
We also got a statement from D.C. City Council. They responded to Trump saying this is a manufactured intrusion on local authority. Violent crime in the district is at the lowest rates we have seen in 30 years. The statement goes on to say federalizing the police department is unwarranted because there is no federal emergency. But guys, crime is still happening, including overnight. There was a fatal shooting roughly 1 mile from the White House. Now we're hearing from D.C.'s U.S. attorney, who is urging local leaders to stiffen the punishments criminals may face for crimes both big and small.
We've got to repeal these laws of the left-leaning D.C. Council, one member of whom I just indicted recently, and we've got to make this place safe for the people in the district.
D.C.'s sole congressional delegate is calling this all political overreach, but D.C.'s police union is applauding the White House for taking action.
In order to fix this problem and make sure that it doesn't ebb and flow and that the feds come in and we lower crime and then they leave and we're left holding the bag, it's very important that people know that there is underlying legislation that needs to be corrected so that we can actually properly staff this police department in order to properly police the city.
Now, the president says he's open to additional crime crackdowns in major cities like Chicago and Los Angeles. The mayor of Chicago said if Trump were to send the National Guard, that it would destabilize the city. That's the quote out of Chicago. Lawrence, Ainsley, and Brian, back to you guys.
Mark, the dynamic was so fascinating yesterday because you have the mayor come out and go, well, crime is down. I don't know why he's doing this. He's got a pandemic mindset. But almost everyone in the press room is.
This is the best part. This is the best part. Get ready. Brian Kilmeade about to pop off.
Living in Washington or the surrounding areas. So you don't need to see a bar graph or a pie chart.
Don't look at it. Don't look at the pie graphs. Don't look at the bar chart. Don't look at the data. Don't look at the data. Don't look at the data. My feelings, and your feelings. Oh, you don't actually feel like crime is actually that significant of a problem in DC, or you feel like it's gotten significantly better? It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. My feelings over your feelings. Please stop. Stop looking at facts. Don't look at the data. Don't look at the data. What are you, gay? What are you, woke? The framing here from a mainstream instrument of media is so alarming, dude. Like, these guys are supposed to be. There's certain things that they're not supposed to do. This is one of the things that they're not supposed to do, okay? As someone who studies criminology and lives in the DMV, this is so infuriating. It's just like, it's so frustrating to be like, no, don't look at the data. Data lies. Data is a liar. Please, your feelings, that's what matters.
The sense that no matter your proclivity or what you thought of the president, the people in that room know there's a problem with crime in that city, regardless of what stat is out there?
Brian, I couldn't agree with you more because statistics don't tell the entire story. And obviously, if you're a victim of crime or if you know somebody.
Statistics don't tell the reality. Oh, that's right. Hey, man, perhaps there is a need for statistics for this exact same reason. Because personal anecdotes, especially as it pertains to crime, are so emotional. When you have a degree of emotional investment, when you actually have like a low impact crime, let's say someone broke into your car. Okay. Someone broke into your car. They didn't even steal anything. They just broke your window. That is a costly endeavor for you. But more importantly, it's an emotional endeavor. Why is it an emotional endeavor? Because you feel like your sense of security has been ripped away from you. I totally understand why someone who's been victim to such an act is going to feel insecure, is going to feel scared. Okay, so that person is obviously going to think crime is actually completely out of control. It's gotten out of hand, right? This is precisely the reason why we need empirical evidence. Why do we need empirical evidence? Because anecdotes are clouded by bias. Okay, and especially when it comes to something like crime, if you have been mugged, or if you have experienced some kind of crime, low impact, high impact, doesn't matter. Your personal relationship with this, your personal relationship with whether or not crime is completely out of control is going to be completely out of whack. We have no way. You have no way at that point to like make an assessment. It's just your own personal individual experience, and it is completely clouded by the emotional impact that had on your life. This is precisely the reason why we have to rely on data to make policy decisions. Because if we don't rely on data to make these policy decisions and we rely on like personal anecdotes, then we're cooked. Then this kind of insane enforcement comes into mind as the only solution.